Good morning, guys. We're back in the shed for another episode of the Emergency Storage Shed Cleanout series. We are up to episode 51. So I hope you're all doing well. Chris here from the Ultimate Recycler. We have a carryover item from last week's episode, and then we can go and move that empty shelf and look at where we're going to go next. On the end of this cord is some sort of large transformer thing. I can't pick it up and show you because it's very heavy. We've got to work out what we're going to do with it. We've got to work out what it is, whether it's saleable. We'll probably scrap it is my hunch, so we'll deal with that in this video. I just want to point out a couple of things from the last episode of this series. A guy called Deadfoot, I don't know if that means he's got 2 dead feet, actually said, at the rate I'm going to be 184 years old by the time that shed's finished. I think that was his maths he worked out. So he just advised me to eat well, take lots of vitamins. It's a long road to hoe, he said. It won't be that long, but it will be a long time, and I hope you're enjoying the content because it is going to go for a long time. But it will get there quicker than that, I'm sure. Another thing I showed, here it is, a vulcanizing clamp in the last one, and a few of you said they'd love to see a demonstration of the old light up, slow burning, lots of smoke vulcanizing clamps. They're pretty cool. I have got some patches here to suit this. I've just got to find them. I will do a demo on that shortly because I'm keen to relive some memories on that as well. And there was lots of other good comments. I think you guys seem to like these unboxings and this going through mystery stuff and me showing you how I'm dealing with it. Sometimes scrap, sometimes repair, sometimes sell, clean up. Very little's going to the tip, and that's what we're all about. So let's check this thing out and work out what we're going to do with it. Now, it is very heavy, and I'll weigh it in a minute just to see what we would get for it if we just threw it straight in the shred steel as it is. It's obviously got a cord coming out of one end, and the other end just has a hole. So whether the cord's been cut off or something, I don't know. And just having a look at the tag, I think it's a power supply. I had a bit of a read, but I didn't clean the tag up. And it says it is a regulated power supply, danger 250 volts, connect, blah, 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 PMG. So it's probably, yeah, the Postmasters General's office, which became Australia Post. Probably dated to the 60s sometimes. Oh, there you go, manufactured 1969. So its input of AC voltage, outputs 48 volts at 2 amps and 60 volts at 0.1 amp DC, 50 hertz. So can DC be 50 hertz? I thought the frequency was an AC rating. I'm not sure on that. Anyway, I don't think there's going to be a market for it, given that it's in pretty rough condition. It's extremely heavy. You could get a power supply delivering those volts and that current much lighter than this. It's going to have big transformers in it. It may even have valves in it. I mean, it has to rectify the voltage. It's old enough to be valves. That'll be interesting. So let's pull the cover off and investigate a bit further. Just before we start pulling it apart, let's put it on the scales. Just over 20 kilos. You probably can't see that from the reflection. That's a fair bit of weight for a little box. So 20 kilos at about, say, 30 cents a kilo for shred. What's that, about $6? I reckon we can do better than $6 for scrap. We'll take the cover off and we'll appraise whether it's worth trying to sell as a transformer, but I doubt it. I think we're going to do better scrap wise. But there's no harm in taking the cover off first and seeing what's inside it. I would say it's been a long time since that screw's been out. Okay, what have we got in here? Whoa, look at those chunky transformers. There's 1, 2, 3 massive big transformers. We've got fuses, I would say. I think they're a fuse. Oh yeah, it just fell out. So there's fuses in there. There's going to be copper in those transformers. I'm not going to scrap them for the copper wire, though. I will weigh them up as transformers. We have a great big capacitor here. Some old style resistors. I think they're called an Allen Bradbury style resistor, if I'm correct. A little connector block in there. So the wire that's coming from that side has been removed. It hasn't been broken or cut. It's actually been disconnected. But I don't see, it looks like it's been very hot on that corner too. I don't see any reason to try and sell this as a complete item. It's not interesting enough as a vintage piece of electronic equipment, and I'm sure we will multiply our $6 substantially just by removing those transformers and weighing them up separately. I can't see any other valuable parts. Well, the fuses I'll keep for sure. We're going to have a bit of cable coming into it as well. That looks like a great big wire wound power resistor. It may have a use. The capacitor won't. It could probably go in with the dirty aluminium because they're normally in an aluminium case. There's that fuse that popped out. It looks like an okay. Oh no, it looks like it's blown. Alright, so it's probably had a problem or something. So that's fine. Well, let's scrap it out. I'll start removing some nuts and bolts and screws, and we'll take these transformers out. First thing I'm going to do is actually remove these nuts from the underneath the top cover. They hold that little plaque on, and I think they might be brass. So I'll keep them anyway. I keep most hardware because I can sell it, but also vintage hardware. I do keep a stock of it here for when I'm doing restorations and repairs. And the actual little name tag itself may have some value. So we'll undo these, we'll take the tag off, and then the actual lid itself can probably just be used to stack up shred steel in, because it's always handy to have containers to put stuff that's just going as scrap metal rather than buckets. I always seem to run out of buckets. So it's got drain holes, so it can be outside. I can just fill that with steel, and then that can go to the scrapyard at some stage. The label here says Automation Control Equipment Pty Ltd Sydney, and there is a diagram. It doesn't have valves, as we noticed. It has got large diodes, so they are what's doing the rectifying AC to DC. So I think they're on a copper heatsink in there actually. So the lid can now be a container for our shred steel, and there's our little plaque. It should clean up quite well. And people buy these, people collect them, and they screw them on little display boards. Being an Australian made company, it's pretty cool. A little bit of fine steel wool and soapy water, that will clean up great. It's going to be at least $1, so it's worth not throwing that in the scrap. It's probably brass. Yeah, I think it's a bit heavy for aluminium. It's probably brass. And the little screws and nuts are not brass, but they'll be handy hardware. They're nice vintage straight slot screws. We'll keep all those and we'll check them out at the end. Okay, next step is to, I think, just snip all the wires, and then we'll undo the transformers from underneath. We're going to have a fair collection of wire as well, which will add up along with the power cord. And we'll weigh up all our respective piles at the end of the scrap out. Just see how much we've increased our $6. We don't need to worry about any power in the capacitor. It would not have been powered on for decades. I've probably owned it at least a decade. I guess if you pick something up from the side of the road, you need to be careful, because you never know when someone last tried to plug it in. And a large capacitor like that would hold a fair bit of punch. There are some square power resistors here. I do keep some of those. Sometimes they're handy. I'll undo the wires out of our connector block down here. And then snip the wires away from the transformers. We get about $4 a kilo for insulated wire. We get about $1 a kilo for transformers. And we can remove the cord. I sometimes keep vintage cords. This one's not in good enough condition to reuse. I'll take out these other fuses. That one didn't have one in it. Oh, spare fuses in here, look at that. I haven't seen that before. Spare fuses just poked into rubber grommets. Fantastic. Well, some of those should be okay. Alright, we've just got everything disconnected as far as the wiring goes. Let's remove some nuts from underneath and drop these transformers off. There goes one of them. Some of the screws are turning on the other side, but most of them are coming off pretty easily. Don't want to waste too much time doing this, there's a lot of them. Another transformer off, and this one should be loose as well. There we go, that didn't take long. I'll undo the wires out of this little connector. Oh, the plastic's all broken on that. That one's no good, we might as well leave it there. And I'm not going to worry about removing the cord through the side of the case. We'll just take the wiring. That will do there. Now what have we got this other end? So that looks like our rectifier setup. It looks like there's some copper heat sinks and these big old metal can type diodes that go through the side. I don't think they're worth keeping. I don't know if they have any value. The resistors I won't keep, only the big square power resistors I do keep some of those. We'll see if that connector comes off. We might as well just leave the capacitor in here. It's not worth enough to even take off. And this wire round resistor I will take off. It could be handy. And the rest of it can really just say is scrap steel. Okay, that's all I'm going to take off the base plate. They can just go to shred steel as it is. We'll weigh that up at the end. We'll pick up all our hardware here with the magnet. I don't think any of it's brass actually. That's fine. And we still have some screws going through the base of the transformer. I can't get that one out, so I can stay there. Same with that one. Certainly where all the weight was in these transformers. And this big one here, I think there's a few components here. I'm not going to worry about that power resistor. There's a couple of other little diodes and the fuse holders. They can all stay on there and that whole thing can go as a large transformer. So the only little thing we have to deal with now is this little diode heatsink assembly. They are definitely copper plates. The diodes looks like they screw on with nuts. So they should be easy to remove. And we can snip that one off. We'll get rid of these components off here. They're in the road. They're probably still perfectly fine resistors, but I have plenty and I'm not going to use old second-hand resistors in a project. So there's one of the diodes. I don't know if they've got any market. I might just check a number on them and see if they are still available or whether they do have any second-hand market. Diodes are pretty easy to test. So we'll just remove the hardware here to separate the copper heatsink. We'll weigh that up. Won't add up to much weight, but it is copper. And the old tags, there's another resistor there, but the leads are too short. We'll leave that one on there. So that can just go in with the e-waste. I don't use the old tag strips. And now that our scrap out is complete, let's have a look at what we've got. I'll weigh up the copper in a minute. That's the heatsink. There were some brass screws that were a bit chewed out. They can just go in the brass bin. The heavy screws from the top cover are thick enough to go in the heavy melt steel. Not that they'll add up to much weight. A few bits of rubbish here. You do have to be careful of some of these insulation pieces because there's a chance it could be asbestos. I checked out the diodes. They're still readily available. It's a ZX22. I think it was a Zener diode. You can still readily buy them fairly cheaply, so I'm not going to keep old dodgy ones. I'll probably never use them. I decided all that can just go in the e-waste bucket. The big wire wound resistor is 150 ohm, 40 watts. We'll check that on the meter in a tick, but I think I'll probably sell that if I can. I doubt I'll ever have a use for it. I did give the little plate a bit of a clean up, so it's definitely a brass plate. We might get a few dollars for that. And the transformers will weigh up, and the rest of the case will weigh up, and the wire, and a little bit of hardware, and a few fuses. We will just check the fuses too to see if they're all any good. Quick check of the fuses. The meter is just on continuity with the buzzer. That one's okay. I think that was the blown one. Oh no, that one's alright. That one's alright. Yep. Yep. Oh, they all work. I thought one was blown. Okay, well, we have some good fuses to put in our tub of spare fuses. Let's now check our resistor and see if it's still okay. It's 150 ohm at 5%. So we'll go around to our lowest ohm setting. Yep, that's fine, and we should get about 150-ish. 153.1, that's pretty good. 5% of 150 is 10% 15, 5% 7.5, so that's within tolerance. I think we'll put that in the shop, and maybe we'll put $5 on it, because, you know, if someone needs it, $5 is cheap. If they don't need it, it doesn't matter if it's 50 cents, they're not going to take it. I reckon we'll try for $5 on that. Let's weigh some things up. We'll start with our shred steel, and it looks like we have, say, 4 kilos. Our insulated wire probably won't weigh enough to get an accurate measurement here. We'll see how we go. And, oh yeah, we've got half a kilogram, about a quarter, almost 300 grams. Now let's do the big transformers. We have to do them separately, I think. We'll try 2. Oh, just on the scale, we've got almost 9.5 kilos. And the bigger one is about almost 6.5 kilos. So 15, almost 16, let's say 15.5 kilos will be fine for those. We'll go to our smaller scales just to weigh the copper, and we've got 140 grams of copper. Alright, let's write that all out and see what it adds up to. And so with our scrap out finished, it's time to look at the notepad, and we ended up with a total of just over $30. Now, I did check the price of shred steel, 38 cents, so the whole thing was about $7.60 if we just threw it in with just general shred steel. And here's how things panned out. Price-wise, you can see the 3 transformers were $18 odd, so that was the bulk of the value. Even those little bits of copper, $1.50. I'm fishing a bit with the $5 for the 40-watt resistor, but if someone wants one, well, you know, you never know. And I do like having that sort of stuff in the shop. It encourages people to come back that see stuff that you just don't normally see in other second-hand and antique shops. The little nameplate, I thought I'd go for $3. So I didn't include any of the hardware and a few little bits of brass and other steel. So not a bad effort, really. $30. I would not have got $30 for this as a complete power supply in the shop, untested. And to test the thing would be, well, look, I don't know how good that transformer was. It looks very dark and looks like it's actually melted all the wax. So, yeah, some things I'll go and try and fix and restore, and I'll get good value for it. Other things, you've just got to make a call. And I think this was definitely going to be a scrap item, pretty well right from the start. Plus, you need to factor in the immeasurable enjoyment a scrapper gets from pulling stuff apart. So there's value everywhere. So happy with this one. We've got it off the shelf. Before we finish up this video, let's go and have a look at the emergency storage shed. Those shelves should be empty unless someone's put something on them. Okay, we're doing things backwards. We normally do this at the start of the video. There's our empty shelves. Let's move them out. Woohoo, more space. So that's really exciting. We have much more space in here. We're going to have to get some more carpet. How good's that? One small step for most people, one giant leap for the ultimate recycler. So will we start on that bench next? It might be a bit hard to get some stuff out of there, that shelf I mean. we could probably start there. That's where I was aiming on starting, because I want to free up those shelves. We can probably pull the stuff off the top. There's that timber barrel I needed to get to. Well, now we can. Looks like there's some old wheels up the top. There's, oh goodness me, there's all sorts of stuff. There's a bit of general hardware. Looks like there's some old jars in the box under there. So, all right, well, those little blue shelves are pretty cool. I used to have some vintage hardware supplies in those in my old shed. All right, well, we'll leave this video now. We'll work out what we're going to tackle for next week, and maybe we'll get a couple of things. We need to up the tempo a little bit, or because I probably won't live to be 184. And that 30 bucks takes us to over 8.5 grand worth of stuff I've taken out here, most of which I've already sold. Pretty good. Catch you in the next one. Bye for now.